Well, if the Labour government isn't in panic mode yet, it may be very soon, as backbench MPs spoke against the planned disability benefit cuts on a flagship BBC show. Rather than discussing the effects of the cuts, Politics Live ended up considering how Keir Starmer and his lieutenants might withdraw the plan, for the moment, only to turn it into a confidence vote later in the year. I'm Mike Sivyer of Vox Political. Buy me a coffee, or donate more than £20 and I'll give you a free book. More on that later. Subscribe to the video mailing list, like and comment on this post, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But watch this first to the end, because this is fascinating and you'll want to hear what I've got to say. I tuned into Politics Live expecting Labour's representative, Andrew Lewin, to parrot the usual party line, so this was my first shock.
I do also have concerns, particularly about the proposed changes to the PIP eligibility criteria.
That's the personal independence
payments, exactly. And I've been having these conversations privately with colleagues, with whips, with the department over a number of weeks, and I'm still having those conversations. And look, I'll be honest with you, I haven't decided yet how I'm going to vote. I am a new MP, I'm a year into this, I've supported the government throughout and want to continue to do so, but there are still unanswered questions about PIP eligibility. And that's really important.
But so far you haven't signed this amendment?
I have not, no, I haven't.
One of the few by the looks of it at this point. But you might? You're still thinking you might? You might vote against?
I'm thinking really hard about this. And it's a national programme, my constituents are watching as well. I want them to know I'm thinking really hard. I'm thinking about the people who are in receipt of PIP, those people who are worried and anxious at the moment. I think further conversations need to happen, both privately, and we've got a long way to go. A week is a long time in politics before that vote is due to take place.
Another Labour MP who has signed the reasoned amendment against the bill was Jen Craft. She spoke particularly powerfully.
There is a lot in this bill that I have really deep concerns about, particularly their impact on disabled people. I don't think that disabled people have been engaged with or consulted with enough in the process of this bill. And I also think that we're being asked to vote on something that we don't yet fully understand what the full impact will be. The worry that I have, I'm a disabled person myself, I'm a carer for a disabled child. And my experience, as it will be the experience of a lot of disabled people, is that when times are tough, and times are tough at the moment, when the government has difficult choices to make, we always seem to be the ones bearing the brunt. And I didn't get into politics to continue that status quo. So benefits that put disabled people at a worse off position is not something that I can vote for. My primary motivator for coming into this job was to improve the lives of people like my daughter. And to be honest, I can't look at this bill and vote for it with the provisions that it has in it.
You may be looking at another new hero of politics. She continued.
I don't think it's fair to start to categorise people as, you're not severely disabled enough, you don't need this benefit, when the benefit is clearly there to acknowledge the higher cost of living with a disability.
It's as though she has been reading Vox Political and watching these video clips. I'm particularly pleased with Ms Craft's attitude to the problem of how the government balances its books if it can't do so on the backs of the disabled. This is an object lesson for all backbench MPs, I think.
That's very much up to the Chancellor. She has her job to do and I have my job to do.
She's tried to do it, hasn't she? And it looks like her party is stopping her.
I mean, I think the role of the Labour backbench, and I'm very proud to call myself part of that, is to provide this kind of conscience check. I think, the government have come forward with something that they want to do, proposals that they've put out, and we as a backbench have said, well, we're not willing to countenance that. And then it's up to the government to see how they resolve that issue.
Green MP Ellie Chowns paraphrased Vox Political's line when she said,
"No, these cuts proposed by the government, they're cruel, they're counterproductive, and they are literally balancing the books on the backs of people who need support."
It would be nice to think that she was aware of some of my work on this. Panellist Kit Malthouse, who's a Tory, spouted nonsense about the UK being unable to afford the disability benefit bill. It can, easily, but then came out with this.
My prediction is they'll cancel it and then they'll wrap it into the budget later this year and make it a kind of confidence issue.
The word from Downing Street at lunchtime on Tuesday was that the government would go ahead with the debate next week and try to face down the rebels. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch has been keeping quiet about what her party will do, possibly in order to give space for Starmer to make his own mistakes. It would be ironic, though, if the Labour Party, which opposed Tory benefit cuts for 14 years until 2024, ended up having to rely on Tory votes to push even harsher cuts through Parliament. So here's the takeaway, and this is the reason I asked you to stay until the end. If the government is backing away from a vote on July the 1st, that's a win. The rebellion will have worked, the public pressure will have worked, and Labour's narrative will be unravelling in front of its ministers. But Labour is not scrapping the plan and will repackage it. If Kit Malthouse is right, Rachel Reeves may wrap these cuts into the autumn budget, and this will make them harder to amend, politically toxic to oppose if framed as a confidence vote, and bundled with other fiscal measures, so MPs are forced to vote yes or risk a general election or economic instability. This is classic legislation by stealth. It's austerity disguised as fiscal discipline, smuggled in under cover of budget arithmetic. If the bill becomes part of a budget confidence vote, MPs who oppose it could be threatened with deselection, accused of destabilising the government, pitted against their own local party structures. That's an escalation, not a retreat. Starmer may be waiting to crush rebellion later. You may well be asking what this means for us. It means this movement just became a long-term campaign. We must keep the pressure on MPs. We must demand that the Labour leadership publicly reject cuts now, not later. And we must expose the possible budget strategy before it happens. So now I'd like to appeal to you once again. Email your MP, making clear not only your opposition to what is happening now, but demanding that Labour MPs not only reject the current bill, but reject any attempt to roll these cuts into the budget in an attempt to blackmail backbenchers. We need to hear Liz Kendall, Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer say they will not target disabled people, either now or at any time in the future. I've been Mike Sivier, and it's time to buy me that coffee now. Donate more than £20 and I'll give you a free copy of my reissued first book, Strong Words in Hard Times. Subscribe to the video mailing list. Like and comment on this post, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do all that, you'll be helping keep this channel alive, and then you'll be able to see me in the next one.